Okay, hello everyone and welcome to round number 3 of our July 1v1. This time we've got Steph and Tubak is how I'm going to choose to pronounce this name for the time being until I'm corrected in the comments later. So, let's see. Tubak is new for us. Steph, of course, a relatively recent newcomer, although I think this is his 3rd or 4th tournament, so I don't know how much longer I can actually call him that. All that said, it looks like we've got expensive steel at the start of this game, is what's especially worth noting. There's expensive fuel and electronics as well, and then offices at the colony, so power is going to be a bit important in this game. Steph is going to choose to head into a carbon-using scavenger immediately this game, so likely going to be looking to use this more expensive fuel price. We'll have to see how that goes. Carbon production and aluminum for him right off the bat. Tubak is instead gone for just a basic robotic opener with some iron and steel. Not a whole lot going on near him right now. There's not great aluminum, there's not really water or silicon or carbon nearby, so it's pretty much just this iron that he's going to be relying on to make steel and be able to push through. This should allow for pretty quick movement up to HQ level 3 as long as there's plenty of steel production going. Gonna probably need to make sure to split the steel mills against his opponent, against these EMPs that Steph has access to. And we'll just have to see how things go from here. Steph is moving into the electrolysis reactors as expected, making sure to establish water. Steph doesn't have great access to resources either, but it's pretty decent if we just look at things. He's got water and aluminum and silicon just a moderate distance away, still reasonable in order to send over these distances for sure. So I really like Steph's found here in a lot of ways. It's kind of difficult to pass up on that steel price that's just so expensive right at the start of this game. I might have been a bit tempted to go robotic in this location myself, but Scavenger is always such a powerful tool in 1v1 that he'll likely be okay even without access to that. You can see that the EMP has now come down on top of the steel mills. Tubak did not split his steel mills up, and so this EMP is going to be quite painful. No goon squad in place either. Steph could be absolutely sure of that with the pirates on this aluminum, and so he's got access to aluminum. That's great and all, but the steel is so much more valuable, and he is losing so much of it in the process of this in exchange for half of the income from this aluminum mine. That's not worth it. Very painful to be hit by this EMP, and Steph is a strong player. Steph should know what his goal is from here, and that's just to keep using EMPs. If he can keep this steel shut down, then he's just going to be in a great position. You can see Tubak, rather than defending himself with a goon squad, has chosen to purchase another EMP. This is potentially going to encourage Steph to go ahead and buy an EMP with whatever cash he has available and know that it's going to be effective once more right on that location. Just keep the steel shut down and his opponent can never really recover and push forward this game. That's the kind of aggressive play that we will usually see out of our scavenger players in 1v1 scenarios. Steph has gotten up to HQ 3 at this point, which means not a lot of cash available right now. You can see water's pretty expensive. That's the thing about going after just one water pump and then into 2 water consumers is water will tend to start getting expensive by the time you've hit 3. So you typically need to go ahead and in 1v1 especially transition into the other water resource, get an additional water pump down, and then potentially look at getting your power online. Now, Steph, I'm not sure. He's going into 2 farms, and the farms, unfortunately, are not going to be a great idea with this dust storm going on. But he's also secured 2 geothermal vents, and so that's what he's going to be looking to use for this power production. Extra claim goes to Tubak for 10k. That's actually a pretty cheap claim overall. But Steph, I can understand not wanting to push that too far. His debt's already looking a bit difficult to handle right now, up at 60,000. He's still in that A rating, but you don't want to dip too far. I would argue that pushing that to 12 or 16 might have been okay for him, and 10 is a bit cheap, but he might be okay moving forward. Tubak has gotten the opportunity to go ahead and defend himself with the goon squad on these steel mills, and Steph walks right on into it. Did not note, perhaps, the goon squad getting purchased. He says he's dumb. Might be pushing it a bit far. On the other hand, maybe he has a bit of a point. And it looks like he's actually noted that the dust storm was coming and transitioned back into these electrolysis reactors. This is just a lot of money thrown away right now for Steph, where he wasn't using the electrolysis. He paid money in order to rebuild them after scrapping them, it would appear, and so Steph's just kind of making a bunch of potentially small errors that are really letting Tubac pull back into this game. He let Tubac have his steel production. He let Tubac get up to HQ3. Rather than keeping the pressure on with the EMPs, he chose to go ahead and upgrade fairly quickly. And I think all of this is coming back to hurt him, as once this steel production came online, it was worth so much money. You can see Tubac is now getting into farms. This is a great time to be moving into farms right now. The dust storm is ending. So yeah, they're not making any money right now, but in about, 1 second, hey look, $60 a piece. That's not bad at all, right? Let's see, my big concern for him, of course, is that there is not a lot of water available for him, and that there's none that he actually has right now. And he would have to take some away over here. He's going to choose to try and pirate some away from Steph. I don't know exactly how well that's going to work out. And so he's going to need to hit 4 very, very quickly in order to have these farms pay off. Actually, Steph, he gives up, and he goes ahead and sells down the water. I don't like this play at all. This is a very reactive play to these pirates without really paying attention to what's going on your opponent's side of the map. And so suddenly, Tubac, now he doesn't have to worry so much. He will easily push to 4. He can take his own water pretty easily if he would like to. He doesn't even necessarily have to right now, although I would encourage it for a long-term play. He could potentially just buy up some water for the time being, perhaps delay his own water acquisition to 5. I do like going ahead and taking it as he's doing now, though. Still got 1 claim left over. He's going to commit all of those into farms. A bit drastic in a 1v1 to set up a diamond like that, especially against a scavenger player who's going to have access to EMPs, speaking of which, Tubac does have 2 EMPs available. Could get aggressive against those with these farms that are coming online now. I wouldn't be too surprised at all to see one thrown that direction. And like, Steph has been put into a very, very bad spot. He has now transitioned to farms. The farms get shut down immediately. No big surprise there. Steph needed to be pushing to HQ4 by now. And this is my big concern about having done something like go after 2 geothermal plants without being in a position to make money off of them. He felt the need to goon squad both of them. He's up against geotherms and dynamite. That cost money. And he's still not doing too well when it comes to debt. So that's a lot of money spent to get these geotherms online. It's a lot of money spent to defend them as well. And they haven't made him a cent. They're probably never going to make him a single cent this game. They're only there in order to keep him from falling into more and more debt. The problem is, the better way to do this would have been to perhaps set that carbon aside, set that aluminum aside, use it, what little bit you have, in order to buy up glass, and use that to go ahead and push forward on into HQ level 4. Then you can set up the second geotherm at that point, right? Or at HQ 5, but delay it. Going for the double geotherm when you're so deep into debt is almost always a bad idea in a 1v1 game in particular. Tubac, he's still in a great spot. These farms are making an absolute ridiculous amount of money. Not as much as they appear to be because he's got a very large stockpile, but I love that play out of him. He's playing very, very well this game. He's bought into, after just that one little misstep, I would say, that could have cost him the game, honestly, early on, where he chose to go after pirates instead of a goon squad for his steel mills and chose not to split his steel mills up. He was allowed to come back into it when Steph made a similar mistake and used his black market incorrectly by not staying aggressive on the obviously undefended steel mills in this 1v1. You knew they were undefended, of course, because you know what black market prices are at all times, right? And you know when a black market item is purchased by an opponent because the price goes up. Only a little bit, but it does go up. So when that goon squad was still listed as 3,000 and those steel mills were still undefended, Steph certainly should have been aggressive at that point. And because he wasn't, I think he let Tubac back on into this game. You can see what that's resulted in, is Steph completely stalled out at HQ3. The dust storm was painful. He didn't see that coming in time. Tried to make a poor transition that he wasn't able to do. The geotherms just cost him more and more time. And he spent so much time just trying to get the power online, get into a resource that was making money, that was wasted because of a lack of attention to what was going on in this game, Tubac, he was paying attention. He understood what was happening. He went into wind turbines in response to the dust storm. He went into farms as the dust storm was ending. Everything was very well timed and carefully thought out after this initial misplay. And that's resulted in him being up at HQ 5 and in a position where he is allowed to get aggressive against an opponent who is very weak, not making any money. Steph also had his water pumps turned off for an extended period of time. That was certainly a mistake. Now one of them has been mutinied away, providing fantastic adjacency and income on over to Tubac. Steph says, put me out of my misery. He has a bit of a point there. Tubac doesn't have quite enough to finish it yet, because Steph, well, he's managed to pay down a lot of his debt off those double geotherms. And that's very, very nice for him. So that high stock price is allowing him to live a little bit longer in this game and just spend a little bit more time dying rather than, you know, actually winning the game. Problematic, to say the least. Oh, man. Electronics coming into their own, finally, for Tubac. I mean, Steph could do something like buy up a lot of carbon, perhaps, with a little bit of money that he has. Try and make these electronics factories hard to use. Could have stayed in the carbon a little bit more, given the prices going up. But he knows that none of it really matters, and that this game is well and truly over. He's not going to concede on out. I think we're still using the length of the game in order to determine tiebreakers, so perhaps concession is not an option for him, but we are at this point just waiting for Tubac to go ahead and finish things up. Oh, Steph goes ahead and buys a little bit of his own stock. That's going to raise his price a little bit more. Buy him another, 2 or 3 seconds in the game, probably. Tubac now has enough if he goes ahead and sells everything down. Likely we're not going to see that. I don't know if Tubac knows about auto-selling, given that he's not doing it right now.
Auction unclaimed. Bidding closed.
We'll just have to wait for a moment. It won't be much longer. Tubac says GG. He knows that this game's over. Everybody knows that this game's over. We're just waiting for it to be completed. And there you go. This is a strong victory. This is a strong victory, but you still have to call out that both players made very, very big mistakes for a 1v1 early in this game. Tubac opened up a vulnerability very, very early with these steel mills. Huge problem having your steel mills in almost a hex there, especially against EMPs, which are just going to shut those down so quickly. EMPs and a scavenger. Tubac was put into a position where he almost couldn't do anything to pull himself back into this game. He had to hope that Steph didn't keep him shut down, and lucky enough for him, Steph made the equally large mistake of not fully exploiting that vulnerability. That let Tubac get back into the game. That, combined with Steph's later mistakes, let Tubac take a very massive lead, because after that point, Tubac played very, very, very well, and there's no taking that away from him. We just need to point out the huge mistakes that were made at the start of that game, so that you guys don't make those mistakes later, right? Don't be so vulnerable with your steel mills at the start, and if your opponent makes that mistake, exploit it. Destroy them for it, because you can, and you should. Alright. No point in really going over any more of that game. Tubac played it out quite flawlessly from there, and we discussed Steph's mistakes pretty well. I would say going forward, just the geotherms causing problems, the lack of attention to the dust storm coming in caused problems. And all of that together really is what did him in that game.